You're standing in your kitchen, the power's been out for 6 hours, the wind is screaming outside, and you realize you have nothing. No light that doesn't need a battery. No heat that doesn't need the grit. No way to cook the food rotting in your dead refrigerator. Now picture a house 3 miles down the road. Same storm, same freezing night, and inside that house, nobody's panicking. Nobody's cold. Nobody even noticed the lights flicker. That's an Amish home. And the difference isn't luck. It's 18 ordinary household items they stockpile every single year before the first snow falls. 18 things you can buy at any store. Most of them cost less than a tank of gas. I'm going to give you all 18. And the last one, number 18, comes from a Pennsylvania farm record written in 1872 that almost nobody alive has read. It's the one that changed how I prepare for winter completely. The first time I walked into a home outside Gordonville, Pennsylvania, in the dead of January, I stood in the doorway for a full minute, warm, bright, the smell of bread, and not one wire running into that house. I thought there was a trick. There wasn't. There was just a list. A list they've kept for over 100 years, and here's the part that matters for you. You don't need to build a new house. You don't need land. You don't need to be Amish. Every single thing I'm about to tell you works in the home you already own, even if it was built in 1965, even if you're renting. So stay with me, because most folks waste years and thousands of dollars learning what's on this list the hard way. You're about to get it in the next few minutes. Let's start with the one that surprises everybody. Salt, not the little shaker on your table. I'm talking about the kind the Amish buy in 50-pound bags before winter. And they don't just buy a little. A typical family in Holmes County, Ohio, keeps 100 pounds or more going into the cold months. Why? Because salt is the oldest refrigerator on Earth. Before electricity, before the icebox, salt is how human beings kept meat through the winter without losing a single pound to spoilage. You pack a cut of pork in salt, and the salt pulls every drop of moisture out of it. Bacteria can't grow without moisture. The meat just sits there, good for months. The U.S. Department of Agriculture documented this in its earliest preservation bulletins in the early 1900s. Salt curing was the standard. It worked. It still works. And here's the cost of not knowing it. When your power goes out for 3 days, everything in your freezer is gone. A family loses $300, $400, sometimes $500 of meat in one outage. The Amish family loses nothing because their meat was never in a freezer to begin with. 100 pounds of salt costs around $20. $20 against 500 lost, that math is why they never run out. But salt alone won't get you through because there's something they keep right next to it that does the other half of the job. Number 2, lard. Now I know. The word makes people flinch. We were all told fat was the enemy. But the Amish never got that memo, and they're healthier for it. Lard is rendered pig fat, and it's one of the most shelf-stable foods on the planet. Stored in a cool, dark place, it lasts a year or more without refrigeration. The Amish render it themselves after butchering and keep gallons of it. What do they use it for? Everything. Cooking, baking, frying. A pie crust made with lard is flakier than anything you'll buy, but the real reason it's on the winter list is calories. In deep cold, your body burns fuel just to stay warm. Lard is dense, pure energy that never needs a plug. There's an old practice they keep alive called potting. You cook the meat, then you seal it under a layer of lard in a crock. The fat hardens into an airtight cap. No oxygen gets in. The meat keeps for months. Sailors and farmers did this for centuries before the refrigerator existed. So that's how they store the food. But none of it matters if you can't cook it when the grid is down. Which brings me to the next 3 items, and these are the ones most people forget until it's too late. Number 3, matches. The strike anywhere kind, kept in a sealed glass jar. Sounds too simple to mention, but think about the last storm. When the power dies, your gas range with the electric igniter won't light on its own. Your fancy lighter runs out. The Amish keep hundreds of matches sealed against moisture because fire is the one thing you cannot improvise at 2 in the morning in the cold. Number 4, lamp oil or kerosene. A single gallon of lamp oil can run a simple oil lamp for around 60 hours. 60 hours of light from 1 gallon. The Amish keep 5, 10 gallons through the winter. That's hundreds of hours of light while your neighbors are stumbling around with a phone flashlight that dies by 9 p.m. Number 5, wicks. This is the one nobody thinks of. You can have all the oil in the world, but a lamp without a fresh wick is just a jar of fuel. Wicks burn down, they char. The Amish keep spools of cotton wick on hand, cut to length, ready to go. $1's worth of wick is the difference between a lit house and a dark one. Now here's where it gets interesting, because everything I've told you so far, the salt, the lard, the lamps, all of it depends on one thing that the modern world has completely forgotten how to store. And it's the reason the Amish never ever run out of water. Let me tell you something that stopped me cold when I first learned it. When the power goes out in your town, your water often goes with it, because the pumps that push water to your house run on electricity. No power, no pressure. Within a day, the tap gives you nothing. The Amish solved this a century ago, and it's number 6 on the list. Number 6, stored water in bulk, rotated through the season. A family keeps dozens of gallons, sometimes hundreds, in cool cellars, but here's the trick most folks miss. They don't just store it, they keep it drinkable, which is why number 7 is on every Amish shelf. Number 7, unscented bleach. Plain, simple chlorine bleach. The U.S. government's own emergency guidance confirms this. 8 drops of regular unscented bleach treats 1 gallon of water and makes it safe to drink. A single small bottle of bleach can purify hundreds of gallons. The Amish keep it not for laundry, but as insurance. Clean water on demand with no filter that needs replacing and no electricity at all. And this is where the cost of not knowing really hits you. People spend hundreds of dollars on fancy water filtration gadgets with cartridges that have to be reordered. The Amish spend $3 on bleach and a few cents on stored water. Same result. One of them keeps you dependent on a company, the other doesn't. You're starting to see the pattern now, aren't you? Every single thing on this list does one job. It cuts the cord. It removes one more way for someone else to control whether you're warm, fed, lit, or safe. And somebody noticed that a long time ago. Somebody realized that a family who stores their own salt and renders their own lard and treats their own water is a family that doesn't need to buy much of anything in an emergency. If you want all of this written down in one place, every method, every ratio, every storage trick I've spent years documenting, I put it into a complete resource called the Amish Pantry Blueprint, along with the Amish Stockpile Blueprint and the Complete Amish Resilience Field Edition. Everything in one package for $97, and you'll find the link in the description below. It's the kind of reference you keep on the shelf next to your stored grain, not on a screen that needs charging. That's not an accident that we forgot these things. Keep that in mind. We'll come back to it, because it gets worse. Number 8, beeswax. The Amish keep blocks of it. Why? Candles, first of all. A beeswax candle burns slower, cleaner, and brighter than the cheap paraffin stuff. But that's just the start. Beeswax waterproofs leather boots so your feet stay dry in the snow. It seals jars. It conditions cast iron. It even goes into salves for cracked winter hands. 1 block, a dozen uses, and it never spoils. Beeswax found in ancient Egyptian tombs was still usable thousands of years later. That's the kind of shelf life we're talking about. Number 9, baking soda. A box costs under $1. The Amish keep multiple pounds. It leavens bread. It cleans every surface in the house. It scrubs teeth. It soothes a burn. It kills odors in a root cellar. When you can't run to the store for 10 different cleaning products, 1 box of baking soda replaces almost all of them. Number 10, vinegar. White vinegar, by the gallon. It cleans, it preserves, it pickles the garden harvest so vegetables last all winter without a freezer. The Amish pickle everything, and vinegar is the backbone of it. A gallon costs a few dollars and never goes bad. Some of those crocks of pickled beets and cucumbers carry a family clear through to spring. Now, if you already own a house and you're thinking this only applies to people building from scratch or to folks with a big farm and a barn, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. You don't need any land for what I'm about to describe. You need a closet, maybe a corner of a basement, maybe just the space under your bed. Here's the thing. The Amish understand that we lost Home isn't kept warm and fed by the house. It's kept warm and fed by what's stored inside it before the cold comes. And every item on this list fits in a space you already have. Take that cool corner of your basement or the back of a north-facing closet. That's your root cellar. People in homes built before 1980 almost always have a spot that stays cool and dark. The Amish would look at that and see a year of food storage waiting to happen. Number 11. Root vegetables, potatoes, carrots, beets, turnips, onions, stored properly in that cool dark space, packed in sand or sawdust. These last for months without a single watt of power. Penn State Extension has published research on this. Potatoes held between 38 and 40 degrees in the dark can keep for months. Carrots packed in damp sand stay crisp deep into winter. This is not theory. This is what fed entire nations before refrigeration existed. And here's what you do this weekend in the home you already own. You find that cool corner. You get a cardboard box or a wooden crate. You buy a 50-pound bag of potatoes and a bag of carrots. You layer them so they're not touching, and you put them in the dark. That's it. You just built a root cellar for under $20 with no permit, no contractor, and no inspector ever knowing. Number 12, onions and garlic, braided and hung. The Amish hang them in a dry spot, and they keep for the entire winter. Garlic isn't just food. It's been used as a natural remedy for colds and infections for thousands of years. Hung in your kitchen, it's medicine and seasoning that never expires on a corporate schedule. Number 13, dried beans. A pound of dried beans costs about $1.50. Stored dry, they last years. They're protein, fiber, and calories that need nothing but water and heat. The Amish keep sacks of them. When the meat runs low and the snow is deep, a pot of beans on the stove feeds a whole family for pennies. So now you've got food that lasts, water that's safe, light that doesn't quit, and heat to cook on. You'd think the list would be done. It's not, because there's a category of items the Amish keep that has nothing to do with food, and forgetting these is what turns a long winter into a dangerous one. Number 14, wool blankets, not cotton, not synthetic, wool. Here's why it matters, and it's something most people have no idea about. Wool keeps you warm even when it's wet. Cotton, when it gets damp, pulls the heat right out of your body. They used to call it the death cloth in survival circles for exactly that reason. Wool holds its warmth no matter what. The Amish keep stacks of wool blankets, and when the heat goes out, the family doesn't fight to warm the whole house. They warm their bodies. A wool blanket needs no fuel, no power, and lasts for decades. Number 15. Candles stored by the box. I don't mean the scented decorations on your shelf. I mean plain, simple tallow or beeswax candles. Kept in bulk. A single candle gives you light and a surprising amount of heat. 3 candles in a small room can raise the temperature a few degrees. The Amish never count their candles in singles. They count them in boxes. Number 16. A hand crank or treadle, anything. The Amish keep tools that run on muscle. A hand crank coffee grinder, a treadle sewing machine, a manual wheat grinder so they can turn stored grain into flour with no power at all. While your electric appliances sit dead on the counter, theirs keep working because the only thing they ever plugged into was a human arm. Number 17, stored grain, wheat, oats, corn. Whole grain, kept dry and cool in sealed containers, lasts for years. Researchers have sprouted wheat that sat in storage for decades. The Amish keep hundreds of pounds. With a hand grinder and stored wheat, a family can bake fresh bread in the middle of a blizzard in a week when the stores are empty and the trucks aren't running. That's real security. That's a pantry that doesn't depend on a single thing outside your own 4 walls. Now, we've reached number 18. And I told you at the start, this one comes from a Pennsylvania farm record written in 1872. So let me tell you how I found it, because it changed the way I think about the whole cold season. I was going through old agricultural records, the kind nobody reads anymore, and I came across a German Pennsylvania farmer's winter ledger, a working document, lists of what the family laid in before the snow. And one entry near the bottom stopped me because I didn't understand it at first. It listed in large quantity something I never would have guessed. Ash, wood ash. Saved, sifted, and stored in a covered barrel all winter long. I thought it was a mistake. Why would anyone store ashes? You sweep those out and throw them away. But the more I dug, the more I realized this was one of the most valuable things in the entire household. And It's the secret almost nobody alive remembers. Here's what wood ash does. First, lye. When you soak hardwood ash in water, it produces lye. And lye is the missing ingredient in soap. Combine that lye with the lard we talked about earlier, and you have soap. Real soap, made from two things you already saved for free. The Amish never had to buy soap because they grew it in their own fireplace in their own butchering. That's the loop closing. Salt preserves the meat. The meat gives the lard. The fire gives the ash. The ash and the lard make the soap. Nothing wasted. Nothing bought. But it doesn't stop at soap. That same wood ash preserves eggs. There's an old method where eggs are packed in dry ash or in a solution, and they stay good for months without refrigeration. Eggs in October, still good in February. The ash seals the shell and keeps the air out. And there's more. Wood ash sprinkled in the root cellar keeps pests away from your stored vegetables. Spread thin on icy steps, it gives you traction with no store-bought salt. Worked into the garden in spring, it feeds the soil with potassium. 1 barrel of what everyone else throws in the trash, and it does the work of a soap factory, an egg preserver, a pest controller, and a fertilizer. That farmer in 1872 knew something we paid to forget. He knew that the things which keep a family alive through winter aren't bought from a company. They're saved, stored, and made at home from what's already there. And now think about why we lost this. A family that saves wood ash doesn't buy soap. A family that stores salt and renders lard doesn't need a freezer or the power company. A family that keeps grain in a hand grinder doesn't depend on the grocery store. Every single item on this list makes a household harder to sell to, harder to charge, harder to control. You weren't taught these 18 things by accident. You were taught instead to buy a new product for every single need on a schedule somebody else controls, at a price somebody else sets. The Amish just quietly refused. They kept the list, they passed it down, and they never explained themselves because they didn't have to. I spent the first 50 years of my life paying for things I now make or store for almost nothing. I felt foolish when I figured it out, but mostly I felt something else. I felt like something had been taken from me, slowly, one convenience at a time, until I'd forgotten my own grandparents knew how to do every bit of this. That's what these 18 items really are. They're not a survival kit, they're a memory, they're the knowledge that you were always supposed to have, sitting right there in plain sight, in a 50-pound bag of salt and a barrel of ash. So here's where you start. You don't do all 18 this week, you do one. You go find that cool, dark corner in the home you already own, and you put a box of potatoes in it. That's your first step back. That's the cord cut for the first time. If you're the kind of person who believes real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside so that someone else could keep selling you what you used to make for free, then you already understand what I just showed you. This was never about being Amish. It's about remembering. Now, I want to hear from you, out of all 18, which one surprised you the most? Was it the salt, the wool, or was it that barrel of wood ash from 1872? The one almost nobody remembers? Tell me in the comments. I read them and I answer. Don't just think it, type it. This audience, the people who still care about this kind of knowledge, we find each other in those comments. And if you want the rest of what I've been digging up, subscribe and stand with the people who are recovering this lost knowledge before it disappears for good. Because next time, I'm going to show you the one heating method the Amish use to keep a single room warm all night on almost no fuel. There's a specific old design behind it, and once you see how it works, you'll wonder how we ever let ourselves forget it. The list was always there. Now it's yours. Don't let another winter go by without it. Before you go, let me give you one more thing, because I left something out, and it matters. Number 19, the one I keep beyond the list. Honey, raw, local honey, stored by the jar. Honey never spoils. Archaeologists found pots of it in those same Egyptian tombs thousands of years old, and it was still good to eat. The Amish keep it because it's sweetener, medicine, and energy all in one. A spoonful soothes a winter cough. Spread on a wound, it fights infection, something hot, and it gives quick calories when the cold drains you. One jar in the cupboard, and it never expires, never freezes solid, never needs a thing from anyone. So now you have it, everything they stockpile, and everything they make from it. Here's my challenge to you for this weekend. Pick 3 items off this list. Just 3. Buy them, put them somewhere cool and dark, and when the next storm rolls through your town and the lights flicker, you'll feel something your neighbors won't. You'll feel calm, because you'll know you already did the one thing they forgot to do. That feeling is what the Amish have all winter long, and starting now, so do you.